This is the Jess Broadcasting Network on air, a podcast about trail and ultra running, but really, it's about becoming who you are meant to be. I'm your host, Jess Walhoff, inviting you into conversations about resilience, wonder, and the quiet magic of putting one foot in front of the other. Out on the trail, we learn to move our mountain, not by force, but by presence and persistence. And in that movement, we find joy in the journey. Hey everyone, welcome back to the JWBN On Air podcast. Before I start, thank you for listening in, all of you. It's been pretty cool to hear from all of you and just see that people are actually into listening, and more so YouTube. I don't know why you guys turn into YouTube so much, but whatever works for you. Thanks for listening and tuning in every week and letting me listening to me rant, I guess. I am on my way home from the Black Hills, second weekend in a row out there, fourth time I think this year, which is never enough, but very grateful for every time I get to go out there and play with my friends and play in one of the most beautiful places I've been to. So this weekend out in the Black Hills was 7 summits. So a little bit background on 7 Summits. It's kind of a group run, no frills event. It originated, I think, in 2019. Chris Riley, Lauren Roderick came up with this idea. I think they were both. I know Chris for sure was training for the Black Hills 100, wanted to make a day of it, picked 7 different peaks to run in the hills. I'm not quite sure on the rhyme or reason for the peaks that they chose. Because I have some feelings about certain ones that don't need to be in there, and I'm sure there's better ones, but and I know that Chris had said that a couple of the peaks that they had chosen, neither one of them had done before, so I'm trying to figure out the timing between running the peaks and driving between the peaks. Didn't work out so great the first year, but they lived and learned. They still got them done. So that first year, again, was the original year, 2019, training for Black Hills, which is the end of June. So I think they had done it either late May or early June. I know I had seen something on Facebook after they had done it, or maybe it was Strava, and been like, geez, that sounds so much fun, I want to do that. And then 2020 happened, and they still ended up putting it on back. They waited until about July. I think it was about mid-July that they ended up saying, hey, we're just going to do this because we're all running with each other anyway. Chris had put it out on Facebook inviting Sioux Falls people. I ended up going out with a friend, Jackie. One other Sioux Falls guy I know was out there. We had a big crowd. I think there were 18 or so that maybe finished all 7 peaks that year. And then a huge handful that did the first couple. So that was a fun year. And then I hadn't been back I think 2 years ago, so 2024. Jeff and I went out, and then it was in May. And then I didn't make it out last year, and I finally made it back to the official and unofficial 7 summits this year. So a little bit about these summits. We start out at 5 a.m. and at Bear Butte, which is near Sturgis, South Dakota. It is a 3-mile round trip. It's about 1.5 miles to the summit, and then another 1.5 miles down, with just over 1,000 feet. I think it's 1,100 feet of climbing. The majority of that, about 1,000 feet of that, is all done in that 1.5 miles on the way up. So just a nice little short steep climb with a few rocks in there. But we do that at 5 o'clock. I think we actually even beat the sunrise to the top. It's hard to tell, a little hazy. Wildfires, I don't know if it's Canada or if it's Colorado, but definitely smoky, hazy air out there. So, but the sun was really red when it did come up. So start out 5 a.m., do that guy. I think we started more like 5:05, a little late start. And then got back in our cars and immediately head over to Spearfish to hit up Crow Peak. Um, Crow Peak, another straight up, turn around, straight back down. I think round trip was somewhere around 6.3 to 6.5 miles, give or take, depending on where you start your watch. And I think that one was about 1,800 feet of climb, so one of the bigger climbs of the day. Also, single track the whole way, a bit rocky towards the top, but another good fun trail. It's fun to turn around, and after you get through the rocky part at the top, you just kind of let loose and bomb down that one. So that was actually, so the first one, Bear Butte, I was the last person off the hill there. One, I let everybody go ahead of me because I'm terrified of heights. And then two, I was behind other people who were also terrified of heights, and just falling and not liking the rocks. So I wasn't going to push them or push my pace. So I was the last one off the first summit. I was not the last one off of Crow Peak. That felt really good coming down, except for when I got down, I'm like, I don't think I should be feeling my quads so soon in the day, but here I am feeling my quads already. We get back in our cars from Crow Peak, and you drive to summit number 3, which is Terry Peak. The ski hill that they have out there. We go to the backside of the mountain, so backside from the ski area. Ski area faces more on that northwest side. So we go over to the kind of southeast side of Terry Peak, hit up Terry Peak Summit Road. So there is a road that goes all the way up to the top of the summit. And it's gravel road. And they're doing a lot of development on the backside there too, which is kind of sad. But anyway, we park right at the base of that road where it meets. I think it's 85 is the highway. Line up our cars. The first people there kind of drove ahead a little bit, which I wasn't too sad about. Took away a little bit of our run. Instead of 6.5 miles, it was like 6.3 miles. Oh, shucks darn. And that one, I think, has somewhere around 1,000 feet of climbing. I forget, enough climbing. But it is gravel road and not bad climbing. I mean, technically, for some people, it's runnable the whole way up. I like to use my power hiking legs and do a lot of that. So I connected with somebody I hadn't mentioned before, Rachel from Spearfish, and we power hiked that sucker up and got to the top. Took our group selfie and turn around, head back down, and then you just bomb down the whole thing. Because again, pretty much it's all runnable. It's a gravel road. There's a few little incline bits in there, so walking opportunities. But that one's really fun just to turn around and kind of let loose, let the legs fly. And the descent isn't too steep again, so not too much burn up of the quads there. Get back in our cars from Terry Peak, and then we go find Custer Peak, which is off of 385, south of Deadwood, north of Pactola Lake, and that's about as good as direction I can give you right there. And that one is an ATV trail. So on that one too, we were near the summit when 2 ATVs passed us. Like, oh yeah, there is an easier way to up here than just our 2 little legs, but here we go. This is the one I grabbed my poles for the first time, just because I know the little pitchiness to it here and there. I think this is the first time I actually used my poles since Hitchcock back in December, so I'm very out of pole practice too. But grab those poles, and this one I hiked most of it up with Chad and Rick, 2 guys I haven't met before either, so that was fun to connect with them. We get to the top there, again, take our selfie and come back down. I think that one was about 4.5-ish miles round trip. And this is the only summit that was like under 1,000 feet of gain. I think this one sits around 890, I think was what Chris had posted. So the shortest, well, other than Bear Butte, one of the shorter segments, and then also the least amount of vert in this segment. But it was a cool fire tower at the top there, so cool picture opportunity. And then we back in our cars again, and we drive over to Bear Mountain, which is pretty much down by Custer. So, you know where Crazy Horse Memorial is? It's pretty much straight west of there. A couple solid miles of gravel road driving to get there. And this one is kind of special. Everybody's like, oh, which is the best one? Or what's the worst one? And this is definitely one of the least favorites on my list. And, you know, I think other people have opinions on it too. I do know one certain individual who thinks it's just lovely, but he's also not like the rest of us. His name is Jeff, if you didn't guess that one already. But yeah, this one is also kind of it's an ATV trail. It's a good section where it's so rutted in. Like I think the ruts are 2 to 3 feet deep. It's incredible. Anyway, and starts out fine, but then the last bit is just a really special kind of steep pitch. This one has just over 1,000 feet of climbing in I think 4.6 miles. So it's a good hike up and down. We hit this one about 3:15ish in the day, so it's also right when everything's heated up. At this point, we already have 20 some miles on our feet when we start. So between all of those factors, and then as fun as this one is, it just kind of tends to be one of the least favorites. It's just so hard at the top, and your fun meter just kind of dips every time, and then you get back in your car and it goes up a little bit, refuels, and then dips again towards the tops. And okay, we run and refuel and then dips again. And this is probably where the fun meter dips the most, especially that last half mile to the top. That little pitch there is just not fun. Turn around back to our cars. This one ended up coming down with a group of 4 of us, more power hiking than running. It was with Rick, Derek, and Chad, and we were almost back to our cars, and Rick and Derek were in front, Chad and I were right behind them. We're just chatting away, and Rick and Derek step over a snake, not even knowing what's happening. That snake pretty much runs across my foot. If you don't know anything about me, I don't like snakes. And so I do as one naturally does, and I scream bloody murder at the top of my lungs. Chad had seen the snake because he was right next to me, and it missed his foot, but Chad had seen it. I scream bloody murder. All these guys are scared, but front 2 guys have no idea what they should be scared of. Chad is just scared from my scream. So I kind of apologize for that, but I think we should all be equally scared of snakes. So if you're not scared of the snake, I'll just scare you with my scream, I guess. This is my second snake encounter at Bear Mountain. 2 years ago when I was there, we were gathering for our group photo at the top, and I pretty much stepped on a snake den. Like all these little baby snakes just were sprawling everywhere. I look down out of the corner of my eye and just see all these things wiggling, and again, do another scream, bloody murder, top of my lungs. Everybody's like, oh no, what's going on? And Jeff knows. Jeff's heard the bloody murder scream, and he kind of waltzes over and he's like, my snake alarm went off. Once you hear the snake alarm, you don't forget the snake alarm, and you know what's up. So yeah, that was Bear Mountain. And then we finished going over to Sylvan Lake and doing the Black Elk Peak Little Devil's Tower loop, which if you do the peaks of both of them, the true peaks, it's about 7.8 miles. This one is always special too because it's at the end, you're already 25 miles in on your legs. And then I think every year they add more rocks and more steps to Black Elk Peak. And I got lots of 4-letter words for all of those steps as I go up them. But we made it up, got our group photo at Black Elk Peak, and that's about 3.4 mile trip up. And then on our way back down, we cut over, I think it's trail number 4. Anyway, there's a trail that you can cut over to do Little Devil's Tower, so we take that trail. By the time I got to the spur that takes us to the actual Devil's Tower, 2 guys, Lee and Derek were standing there and told me, hey, most people have already gone down. There's like 2 people that actually went to the summit of Little Devil's Tower, which if you haven't been to Little Devil's Tower, it's like a little, I think, maybe a tenth of a mile spur off the trail to get to the base, I'm going to say the base of Devil's Tower. And then I don't know how much bouldering it is, but distance-wise, because that's hard to calculate. But you go between a rock crevice and kind of climb your way up, and then you on top of the rocks and climb your way up. So kind of bouldering skills. You don't have to be too good at rock climbing to do it, but one, it sucks when you've already got 30 miles on your legs. But then 2, we were kind of pushing it for daylight. Still have a good 1.5 miles, I think, when you leave Little Devil's Tower to get back to the parking lot, 1.5 miles or 2, and didn't want to push the luck with daylight, so I only did 6.5 summits, I guess, instead of the full 7, but good enough for these legs. And I think that whole, if you do the 7.8 miles, actually go to the summit of Little Devil's Tower, it's about 1,800 feet of vert, I think, for that one. So if you do all the math for all of that, it's about 33 miles for the day on your feet, and then about 7,500 feet of vert, which also means about 7,500 feet coming down, which might, quads feel that a bit more than anything else. But so a full day out in the Black Hills. We're back to our cars. I think everybody's back by at least 8:30. Kind of take the baby wipes down to your legs, maybe change into some clothes, and then get back in the car for the 8th summit, which is going to Hill City at the Alpine Inn. Great restaurant if you've never been. If you hit up their supper, they only give you 2 options for your supper. It's a filet mignon, which is fantastic, which comes, I think, in like a 6 or 9 ounce, or you can do the Spätzle. And I did the Spätzle for the first time because I was just there last week and had the filet mignon, which was fantastic. And I wasn't sure how much I could actually put down, so I wasn't feeling that hungry. Did a good job of eating lots of snacks in my very messy car. Ignore everything over here if you see it. But yeah, I wasn't overly hungry. It might have been, it did get up to about 90 degrees. The sun had some power to it, maybe not as powerful as it usually is, just because of all the smoke in the air. I know when we got to Terry Peak, that's the first time that I actually, I can either taste or smell the smoke. And it might be because that one's the higher one in the Northern Hills. That one actually gets over 7,000 feet. I think Bear Mountain maybe climbs. There's a sign for Bear Mountain. I forgot what that one is. I think that one's about 7,000 feet. And then Black Elk Peak is also 7,000 feet. So we hit up 3 of the highest summits in the hills. If you didn't know, Black Elk Peak is the highest point in South Dakota, the highest point west of the Rocky Mountains, until I think you get to the Alps, or east. The highest point east of the Rocky Mountains until you get all the way over to the Swiss Alps or something like that. So higher than anything out in the Appalachians apparently too. So that's our fun fact. I think there are 7 or 8 peaks in the hills that are actually over 7,000 feet. Again, I don't know the rhyme or reason for Chris and Lauren's choosing of these summits, but they are what they are. I know that some of the other 7,000 peaks either don't have a trail really going up them, it's just bushwhacking, and then other ones, they have a road, like a paved road, that just takes you right to it. So those would either be a very short run. I don't know if it would be worth the run. Don't really want to be running on pavement either, so that might be why they're excluded as well. But just some thoughts on that. But yeah, it's a fun weekend. Just cruising around the hills. What made it a little more interesting this year is that it was also the first official week the start of the Sturgis Rally, which if you're not from South Dakota, that's the big motorcycle gathering of mostly Harley, well, kind of sponsored mainly by Harley Davidson, but so that's a big draw, but they have everything else there, you know, Indian and Victory, and I don't know, I saw more brands than I've ever heard of before. But that was an interesting thing driving through Sturgis when that's all set up for the rally. We went through there about 6:30 in the morning maybe, so not much for people-wise going on, business-wise, but it was interesting to see all the tents set up. And then, you know, it wasn't too bad driving the Northern Hills because we did it so early until we got onto kind of like 385 on our trek down to from Custer Peak to Bear Mountain. It wasn't overly bad traffic-wise. The one comment I have to say about the bikes was how many of them cross over the center line when they're coming at you. It's just ridiculous. People, keep your wheels on your side of the lane. I think I had seen either Thursday or Friday a report of deaths so far for motorcycle accidents in the hills just with the start of the rally. And 2 or 3 of accidents had been because people had crossed the center line. And when I was driving there, and it wasn't even on like curve part where it's short, steep curves or anything. It was on straightaways, and people had the wheel of their tire over the center line in my lane. I was hugging the shoulder, right in the rumple strips. I don't know why people who are on 2 wheels with no helmets on think they can just take up the whole road like that. And what are you going to do when, you know, the bikes are coming at you also doing the same thing? Play chicken? I don't know. That's my 2 thoughts on motorcycles. I'm not against them. My dad rides bikes, so most of the people, like I stayed in a Kathmandu campground, boondogged. I didn't really interact with anybody there. Had a hotel in Hill City after the run. Saw a couple bikers there, and yeah, nothing against them because most of them are pretty normal people just out there wanting to ride their bikes in a little bit of community, just like us runners want to run together in a community. So most of the bikers that I've run into are very normal. They're not the Hells Angels. They're the farmers that just came out here to ride their bike and socialize, those types of things. So most normal people. But yeah, that's my 2 cents on motorcycles in the hills. This drive back has been pretty nice because everybody's on their way back to or over to Sturgis. Nobody's coming back to Sioux Falls. So yeah, that was my weekend in the hills, 2nd weekend in a row out there. It's, you know, each of those trails is kind of unique. Bear Butte is just a special trail. If you've never been on that one, again, would recommend. It's short and steep, a little bit rocky and shale, but doable even for people with heights. And then Crow Peak is just, again, another different one, another single track, lots of dirt, couple rocks towards the top. It's just a fun, beautiful place. Cherry Peak, I'm going to say, you know, woohoo, not too exciting. It's a dirt road all the way up, gravel road, well-maintained gravel road all the way up. The view, again, just the haze kind of makes the view a little less. So many antennas up there too that all those wires get in your view. And then all the mining that they've done west of Cherry Peak just completely dug up a hill, so that takes away the view. So not quite as special up there. Custer Peak, again, that one, ATV trail, rocks, the fire tower is really cool. There are great views up there. I really actually like the views from Custer Peak, other than it was smoky, so the views a little dwindled. Bear Mountain, again, has views. Again, different views because you're way south than everything else. And then that loop, Black Elk Peak to Little Devil's Tower, is just special if you've never been in Custer State Park. All of the hills are like a bit different. Southern hills versus northern hills, you know, in their makeup of rock. formations. And in Custer, it's all these huge granite boulders, and it's just so beautiful, and just, you know, something that probably don't see elsewhere or find it just like that. It's just kind of awe-inspiring and spectacular. So would recommend visiting Custer State Park, getting on the trails out there, checking out these awesome boulders. It's just so fun. That spur between Black Elk and Little Devil's Tower, like you're running right next to these huge boulder rocks, and it's just nothing else like that. So would highly recommend. These things, you know, it's a group run kind of fat-ass event. And we had some girls that, you know, they weren't going to make every single summit, but they showed up and started out, maybe got a head start on us, and then turned around when they wanted to turn around, and still got 20 plus miles in. There were other people who just showed up for the first 1, 2, or 3 summits and then went about the rest of their days. Some of them came back for the last one. Some people just came out for the last one, or came out just for supper at Alpine Inn. So it's just a fun group event. You can kind of pick and choose what you wanted to do, because we did kind of have times posted for estimated start times for certain summits. So if you wanted to join midway in and skip the rocky ones and hit the less rocky ones or whatnot, you could. But yeah, special event again. Usually it's in May-ish. Chris was in charge this year. Couldn't work it into the schedule with May since he was the one willing to host. We just go on Chris's schedule, or at least willing to organize it all. And so we put it on this day, whatever that was, August 8th, right in the middle, right at the start of the rally, just to keep things like interesting. It's a little warmer than it is in May. I know they've had years in May where the weather's been not warm and dicey between hail and rain and thunderstorms, but in South Dakota, you never know what you're going to hit. We didn't get any thunderstorms yesterday. I had just a little bit of raindrops to make enough mess on the front of my car starting out this morning, but otherwise they've been super dry out there, so they could use any rain that comes. But fun weekend. Hopefully we as in Chris or anyone else in the hills who wants to lead the charge for organizing can get it back on the schedule again next year, and we can advertise when that is. We, as in, I guess I could post that to my pages. I shared it in the Sioux Falls Run Club message board, so that a lot of people from the Sioux Falls area could see it, but none of them could make it, had excuses, or thought they had excuses. So it's the only Sioux Falls rep out there, but had some fun, made some new friends, saw some of my old friends, reconnected. And then just a little bit about, I know, because people think, hey, that's crazy, running 33 miles, doing 7 different peaks, 6 different hikes, driving around the hills, all in one day. That's just crazy stuff. But what people don't realize is, 1, all the other crazy people that are doing this, but then 2, my friends are just a little bit, I think, crazier than I am, that I think I'm pretty sane for what I do. So Chris, who led the charge and organized it, same Chris that finished 3rd at the Lean Horse 50 mile last year and led the charge up and down the summits this weekend, like no big deal. Teresa, who had won first place in the 30 mile last week at Lean Horse, also did all 7 summits, although she was starting to talk herself out of some of them. She did all of them. And then Derek had run the 50 mile also at Lean Horse last week, and there he was, did all 7 summits this weekend. Wes did most of them. I think he did the first 4, and he had run the 30 miler last weekend, so he got in a solid 20 miles with us. So people doing those 2 things back to back, I think, are crazier than me just coming out there just for that. Another one, Dan Berkey, showed up for the first 2. If you don't know Dan, I think he's like, Brian says he's 10 years older than me. So he's in his upper 70s, 77, and does 2 of the harder peaks right off in the morning. like no big deal. And then Rick, who was out there, he had the intention of doing all 7, was starting to feel a little pull in a hamstring, and he's wise enough to know not to push things, even though I tried to coerce him to keep coming. But he ended up doing 5 summits and 25 miles with us, and I think he told me he's like 72 or 73. So when I work with a lot of people, older adults, seniors, and they've got lots of excuses, and then I just point out to these guys that I just run with them, like, well, they can do this, so you don't have excuses. You can lift a weight, or you can go to a exercise class. You don't have to be running summits like these guys are, but you can do something yet. So just inspiring. Again, my friends are just kind of, like I said, people think I'm crazy. You should meet my friends. But they're what inspires me, keeps me going. And it's just so fun to see these beautiful places, and to do it with other people. Otherwise, if I was by myself, this would be like, I think I could just not do this one or something like that. But just being with these people was a great weekend. Would highly recommend. And then, if we get it on the agenda early enough to share with everybody, and hopefully they make it work in their schedules, so more people can experience it. It's just a fun time. That's pretty much all I got for this episode. Short and sweet again for you guys, but it's a fun weekend. Would recommend, and that's all I've got. So thanks for tuning in, guys.
This has been a JWBN production. Thanks for listening.